Hello students. Students, in the previous part of this chapter of human health and diseases, we had started with the part of this chapter. The name of the topic is common health disorders. Here we have studied about the congenital diseases and the acquired diseases. We studied that congenital diseases that is present from birth and it is due to genetic abnormality and metabolic disorder, whereas the acquired disease are developed after birth. The acquired diseases are further divided into communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. Then we studied that communicable diseases are also known as infectious diseases, as these diseases are transmitted from the infected person to the healthy person. This can be directly or indirectly. Okay? And they are communicable diseases as they are caused by certain pathogens like viruses, bacteria, fungi, helminths, worms, etc. Then non-communicable diseases are non-infectious diseases because they cannot be transmitted from one infected person to other infected person. So it is no direct or indirect transmission. Okay, it is non-communicable and it is non-infectious. Then we studied about the pathogens. What are pathogens? They are disease causing organisms. Okay, and some of these pathogens, they use vector to reach the human body. When they cannot reach directly, they reach indirectly, and to reach indirectly they use certain vectors, and these vectors are known as parasites. Okay, so parasites, they are the organism which live in the body of the humans or they live on the body of the humans, and when they are living in or on the body of the humans, they derive nutrition from the body. And these parasites, on the basis of their location, they are categorized into two groups. They can be either ectoparasites or endoparasites. So as the name says, ectoparasites, the parasites which are on the body of the host, and endoparasites are the parasites living in the body of the host. Ectoparasites, the example is bed bugs. So here the bed bugs is the parasite, that means it is a vector that is carrying the pathogens like viruses, bacteria, fungi, worms, etc. Endoparasites, the example is the plasmodium in the protozoan endoparasite of the mosquito and humans. So here the mosquito becomes the vector, that is the mosquito becomes the parasite that is carrying the pathogen. Okay, so if you see in case of malaria or dengue fever, mosquitoes are the vectors, okay, and the mosquitoes are carrying those plasmodium to the human body. So mosquito becomes the parasite, whereas the plasmodium becomes the pathogen. Then we studied about malaria. Okay, so we started about the common diseases that are observed in humans or living organisms. So malaria, we studied about malaria. We studied about the symptoms, which has a classical symptom of cyclic occurrence of high fever followed by sweating and sudden shivering. Okay, so this is the classical symptom of malaria. We studied about the complete mode of transmission and the diagnosis and the preventive and the control measures. Then we studied about amoebiasis, and here we studied about the signs and symptoms as well, where diarrhea, flatulence, stool and with mucus and abdominal cramps are the main symptoms. And in severe cases the symptoms are seen like passing of blood with the stool. Okay, and if the liver if the parasite reaches the liver, then it also causes hepatomegaly, that means the liver enlargement. We studied about the mode of transport or the mode of transmission of this particular parasite, diagnosis and treatment, and preventive and controlling measures. Then next we studied about the organism, that is ascariasis, which is caused by Ascaris lumbricoides. And here the signs and symptoms are again related to gastrointestinal discomfort, which is accompanied by vomiting and fever. And there are also certain presence of live worms in the fecal matter, and this also in extreme cases it also leads to pneumonitis, that is inflammation in the alveolar wall. So the alveoli of your lungs, these are filled with certain fluids, and because they are filled with certain fluids, there is inflammation that is seen or that is observed in lungs or in the tissues of the lungs. Then there is loss of appetite and weight loss, and the classical symptom over here is eosinophilia. Eosinophilia is the number of eosinophils increased in the body. So eosinophils are WBCs, and these eosinophils, they are increased in the body only when the body is going through certain infection, or there are certain infectious or organism or pathogens that have invaded the body. So this is one of the classical symptoms. Again, we studied about the mode of transmission, diagnosis and treatment, and the preventive and controlling measures. Now in this part, we'll be starting with more of these common diseases, where the first disease that we are studying is filariasis, or which is also known as elephantiasis, and these are caused by thread-like worms which are known as nematodes. And these nematode parasites are transported from person to person via mosquito bite. Okay, so again mosquito becomes the vector over here. Filariasis can be divided into three subtypes. So there are three subtypes of filariasis. First one is lymphatic filariasis, then it is subcutaneous filariasis, which is caused by two of the organisms. The first one is Loa loa and the second one is Manzanella species. And then there is serous cavity filariasis, that means serous cavity of the abdomen. So serous cavity of the filariasis is also caused by Manzanella species. Speaking about lymphatic filariasis, it is caused by a worm. So there are three worms which are responsible, which are the causative organism for this particular type of filariasis: Vauchereria bancrofti, Brugia malayi and Brugia timori. So these are the three worms that cause lymphatic filariasis. The signs and symptoms are edema with thickening of skin and underlying tissue. Edema is certain swelling of the tissues of the parts of your body, and this is due to collection of fluid in that particular tissue, and this is accompanied by thickening of the skin and underlying tissue. Vauchereria bancrofti also affects the legs, the arm, breast and the scrotum region of your body, and it infects the lymphatic system, causes the enlargement of the lymph vessels or the lymph nodes. And because there is this enlargement of the lymph vessels or lymph nodes, the limbs of the body, the arms and the legs, they swell up. Okay, they swell, they get swollen, and they look like, they appear like a leg of an elephant, and that is how the name is being given as elephantiasis. The next symptom is lymphedema, that is accumulation of lymph fluid, as I told you, in the tissues, which causes swelling. And next, the symptom is also hydrocele. Hydrocele is the enlargement of the testis due to accumulation of, again, lymphatic fluid in the testis. Okay, so these are the certain signs and symptoms of filariasis or elephantiasis. Now the mode of transmission: Vauchereria bancrofti, they are transmitted to humans by female Culex mosquito. Now when we studied about malaria, malaria is transmitted to humans by female Anopheles mosquito, and filariasis or Vauchereria bancrofti is transmitted to the human body by female Culex mosquito. So the female Culex mosquito here is the vector. Now the larva, it escapes the mosquito body and it arrives on the human skin. So first it will arise on the human skin, it will penetrate the skin and it will undergo two kinds of moldings. After two moldings, they become adult, and after they become adult, they settle down in the lymphatic system of the human body. Now the incubation period of these particular pathogen or this particular Vouchereria bancrofti, it is about 8 to 16 months. That means it can it can settle in your lymphatic system for 8 to 16 months without any signs and symptoms. So if that particular bacteria is inside your body or it is inside your lymphatic system for about 8 to 16 months, there will be no signs and symptoms. That is their incubation period, and after that particular period they will start showing the signs and the symptoms in your body. So this is about the mode of transmission of filariasis. Diagnosis and treatment. Diagnosis is using diethyl carbamazine citrate twice a day for 3 weeks. So it is used twice a day for 3 weeks, and thereafter it is used every 5 days in every 6 months. Okay, and it is effective against the filarial worms. Preventive and control measure remains the same as malaria, that avoid mosquito bite using mosquito nets and insect repellent creams. This helps in eradication of mosquito, which is essential for the control of filariasis. Next disease is typhoid, and it is an acute infectious disease of the intestine. Causative organism over here is Salmonella typhi, which is a gram-negative bacteria, and these are found in the intestinal lumen of the infected person. Now, if you see the diagram or if you see the structure of Salmonella typhi, you will see that the body of this particular gram-negative bacteria is having certain flagellas. Okay, now student, one thing that this diagram is very important from your exam point of view, and it is, you can say, the most easiest diagram. In the last year's paper, this diagram had come for about, you can say, 2 marks, where you had to draw the diagram and you had to name the causative organism for the typhoid fever. So you just had to write Salmonella typhi with this particular diagram. Now, as I was saying, that the organism is having flagella on the body, and the flagella is with antigen H, whereas the surface of the body of this organism is with antigen O. Now, to detect this kind of disease in the body, there is a test done which is known as Vidal test, and if the Vidal test range is more than or it is equal to 1:160 titer of antigen O and antigen H, then it indicates typhoid infection. Okay, so this particular disease is, it can be known if it is there in the body of an organism. It can be detected or diagnosed with the presence of this antigen O and antigen H. Now, signs and symptoms: prolonged fever, and the fever goes as high as 104 degree Fahrenheit. General nausea, fatigue, headache. Then there is abdominal pain, constipation and diarrhea. Then external symptoms that appears external on your body is rose colored rash on the skin. Then there is white coat on the tongue. Anorexia, that is loss of appetite, and in severe condition there is breathlessness, irregular breathing, and irregular heartbeat and hemorrhages. So these are the signs and symptoms. Mode of transmission: it is a food and waterborne diseases. So if it is a food and waterborne disease, it is mainly happening in the month of, or in the season of monsoon. Okay, so this particular disease is very common in the month of, in the season of monsoon, because as it is a waterborne disease, okay, and the foodborne disease, water gets infected, tap water that you use, it gets infected mostly during the monsoon season, as there is a lot of mixing of water. Okay, and with the same thing, it also infects the food. Okay, so the mode of transmission: it is a food and waterborne disease. Insects like housefly and cockroaches that feed on fecal matter. Okay, so whenever there is a fecal matter in open space, you will see these cockroaches and housefly just hovering around those fecal matter. again, when these housefly and these cockroaches come to the food material, okay, they come to the food material, they transfer the bacteria that they have carried from the fecal matter to the food material. And if the humans, they eat or they consume that particular food material, the bacteria enters the human body. So poor hygiene habits and poor sanitation conditions are, mainly responsible for the spread of this typhoid. Diagnosis and treatment, there is Vidal test, which is used for the diagnosis of typhoid, and in severe cases the treatment also involves surgical removal of gallbladder. Antibiotic like chloromycetin is used, and there is also certain vaccines for prevention of this disease. There are two vaccines, one is oral and the other one is injected one, the one that is injectable. So the oral one is TY2LA vaccine, and injectable one is typhoid polysaccharide vaccine, which is sold as Typhim VI and Typhirix in pharmaceutical markets. So this was about typhoid fever. Next is pneumonia, which is an inflammatory condition of the lungs and the alveoli of the lungs. And these are caused by a number of organisms. It can be viruses, it can be bacteria, it can be fungal pathogens, and it can also be certain chemical burns and physical injury to the lungs. When we speak about viruses that are involved in causing this kind of disease is influenza virus, adenovirus, parainfluenza virus, and RSV, that is respiratory syncytial virus. Then bacteria such as Streptococcus pneumonia, which is the most common causative organism for this particular disease. Fungal pathogens like Pneumocystis jirovecii and Pneumocystis carinii. So these are the two fungal pathogens, and as I said, there can be this particular disease can be because of chemical burns and physical injury to the lungs as well. So if you see in this picture, this is the infected alveoli of the lung and this is the healthy alveoli. So in the infected alveoli, you will see this fluid filled alveolar sac, and this results into an inflammation condition into certain tissues of your lungs. Okay, so the alveolar sacs, they are filled with certain fluid. So signs and symptoms are cough, which produces yellow to greenish sputum. There is high fever, then there is dyspnea, that is shortness of breath, chest pain during deep breathing and coughing, and then there is loss of appetite, fatigue, headache, vomiting, joint pain and muscle ache. So these are the common signs and symptoms. Mode of transmission, it is a communicable and infectious disease. Okay, so that is how it is transported or it is transmitted from person to person by direct contact. So via droplets that are released from the infected person or by using shared clothes or shared utensils, this disease can be caused. Diagnosis and treatment, it depends upon the pathogen that is leading the disease. And for bacterial pneumonia, that is the most common that I told you, that is Streptococcus pneumonia, the diagnosis involves the treatment involves antibiotic like benzyl penicillin, ampicillin, chloramphenicol. These are the three antibiotics which are used for the treatment of bacterial pneumonia. Prevention and control, there is vaccination for both children and adult, which is very important, and vaccination against Haemophilus influenza and Streptococcus pneumonia in the first year of life greatly helps in reducing the chance of this particular infection. So these are the preventive and controlling measures. After pneumonia, the next disease is common cold, and it is a viral infectious disease in the upper respiratory region. So which is also known as nasopharyngitis, acute viral rhinopharyngitis, acute coryza or cold. And causative organism over here is rhinoviruses and coronaviruses. Okay, so yes, the coronavirus that we are currently facing, the pandemic, is a common cold infection which is caused by coronavirus. So coronavirus is not something very new to the world, but the strain of coronavirus that we are facing or that is causing the infection in the current pandemic is very new. Okay, and so people do not have immunity towards it. So causative organism for common cold is either rhinoviruses or coronaviruses. Signs and symptoms is cough, sore throat, running nose and fever. Then there is nasal congestion and sneezing. And then there is conjunctivitis, that is redness of the eye, and muscle rashes, fatigue, headache, shivering and loss of appetite. Prevention and controlling measure is staying away from the person who is suffering from the cold, washing hands with soap and water, that is thorough washing of your hands, using of handkerchief to cover your nose and mouth while you are coughing and sneezing, and then there is alcohol based sanitizer. So rubbing alcohol based sanitizer on your hands and on the place of your work is very important to avoid this kind of infection. So this was about common cold. Then the next one is ringworm, which is also known as dermatophytosis, and it is a fungal infectious disease. So if it is infectious disease, that means it is communicable from direct contact or indirect contact. Causative organism over here is many fungal species. So many fungal species like the species from the genera of Trichophyton and Microsporum. So these are the two genera. So many species of these two genera are responsible for spreading this fungal disease or fungal infection. These organisms, they feed on keratin of your skin, nail and hair. So these are the three parts of your body where keratin is found. So this particular organism, it feeds on the keratin of your skin, nail and hair. Signs and symptoms: infected skin shows enlarged red ring which is caused due to ringworm. So in the first picture you can very well see this, that there is this enlarged red ring which is seen on the skin, and it appears dry and scaly. So if you see the picture, it is dry, it is scaly, it has scaly lesions on it, and it spreads on various parts of your body, and it has intense itching is what is observed. Then if the infection is on your nails, so this is known as onychomycosis, and onychomycosis is thick, discolored and disfigured nail. So you can see it very well in the second picture. Second picture is of onychomycosis, where the nail, they become thick, they become discolored and it become disfigured. And then the last symptom is athlete's foot, which is a fungal infection that begins from the toe. Okay, so if you see in the third picture, the toes of your leg, it gets infected and then it is spread to other parts of your body. Now talking about the mode of transmission, yes, it is a communicable, it is infectious disease. So sharing of clothes, comb of the infected person can cause this particular fungal infection. Then close contact with infected person also can cause this, of course it will cause the infection. Diagnosis and treatment. Now there is physical examination and uses of drugs like nystatin, fluconazole and itraconazole. These are the three drugs which are used for the treatment of this infection. Talking about the prevention and controlling measures, so avoid close contact with the infected person, avoid sharing clothes and other things from the infected person, and washing the clothes with hot water and fungicidal soaps is very important to prevent this kind of infection. Next one is dengue fever, and here the dengue fever is very painful and debilitating kind of a disease. Debilitating means it makes your body very weak and you feel tired and weak, and it is a vector borne disease. Okay, so here again the vector is the mosquito. The causative organism is dengue virus and it is abbreviated as DENV. So it is a vector-borne flavivirus. Mode of transmission, transmitted through the bite of female Aedes mosquito. So we studied about the 3 female mosquitoes that cause certain diseases. Malaria is by female Anopheles mosquito. Then we studied about filariasis, which is by female Culex mosquito, and now dengue fever, which is by female Aedes mosquito. It is not transmitted directly from person to person. Okay, so it does not have a direct contact, but of course it will have an indirect contact. It is a communicable infectious disease. Prevention and control is mosquito net and insect repellent, spraying insecticides, and draining stagnant water. So because in stagnant water the mosquitoes always lay their eggs. Okay, so to avoid such kind of condition, it is very important for draining the stagnant water, and using Gambusia freshwater fish. And this Gambusia freshwater fish, it feeds on the larva of these mosquitoes. So using this kind of fish is a biocontrol method. So students, these were the diseases that we studied today, and we are ending this particular session over here. In the next session we'll be starting with the last part of this chapter, where we'll be studying about cancer, AIDS, and the last part is about adolescence.